Hello, thank you. All right, let me make sure I get my timer started. Cool. All right, so thank you for being here and coming to listen about all these cool talks. I know we've talked a lot about AI already, but this talk is not about AI. It's about people. So accessibility is a really, really big topic, right? I know we're all kind of eating, but can I get just like a show of hands, maybe? Like who here feels really confident in their digital accessibility knowledge? Hey, awesome, cool. We're all gonna be friends later, and I'm clearly in good company. So this talk is going to be very general, right? There's a lot that can be said about accessibility that I'm not gonna say or that I'm gonna glaze past. My goal is to make you curious enough to want to go learn more after I'm done talking. Or you can come ask me at the Q&A or talk to somebody else, right? And we're specifically going to be looking at the intersection of people who browse the web and people who have disabilities and may not use a screen reader. So I'm Malik. I've been an engineer for around 15 years, a product manager for around 5, and a small business owner for less than 1 right now. And in my time, in my career, I've made some really terrible user interfaces, not intentionally, right? But like accidentally, I've realized like hindsight, but like, man, that was that was not a kind experience for people, right? Like, has anybody else made an interface that they're like, man, like I know for a fact I have made something that was bad to use? I'm not surprised. It's like almost all of you raising your hands right now. So my championing of accessibility is, in a way, my mission to atone for the sins of my past, of all the bad interfaces that I've made, right? So thank you so much for giving me the soapbox today, because this is very much a soapbox topic for me. And I get to talk with a microphone. Over the years, I've heard 2 things that really, really, really bother me that I had to sit on my hands. And it's, hey, we're just using an accessibility overlay to be accessible. We don't have time for that talk. That would be like an hour-long talk, right? So instead, we're getting the, yay, we're accessible because it passed a screen reader test talk. When we say that, it's a lot like saying, hey, my website is mobile friendly because it doesn't scroll horizontally on a phone, right? There's a lot more to that story. But I think that when we have this narrow-minded view like this, it kind of reveals something about us and like who we are as people, like as humans at like this fundamental level. Because by default, we assume that other people's experience is like our own. And when we make an assumption, we lose out on the opportunity to get curious, right? To ask questions, to explore, to understand that follow-up. I think it's a very intrinsic locus of control way of looking at interface design and development, personally. But luckily, you are at my talk because you are probably a curious person. So let's explore that, right? Other than being blind or having a vision disability, can anyone shout out any disability that they know of or can think of off the top of their head? Colorblind, yeah.
Cracked phone.
Cracked phone, yeah. Anything else? Broken limbs, for sure. Or missing limbs sometimes too, right? Motor impairment, yeah. It's the technical term. So here's a limited selection, very limited selection, right? Of ways that if you have a disability that you might customize your workspace. Like we're all engineers in here, right? And one of the things we love to do is to customize our battle stations, right? No different when you're trying to interface with a computer with some type of disability. So do we think any of these could help with the disabilities that we called out, maybe? Like yes or no? Yeah. No, probably yeah. What do we think they do? How do we think they're used? Right, like some of you have maybe never seen some of these before. Like we might recognize this one on the bottom here. Actually, let me see if this magic mouse thing works. Oh, yeah, cool. Like this one we might recognize as like a braille thing here, right? But like what's this thing? Or these, right? So let's learn more about these because our actual users are using these. So we're going to quickly blow through these. There's some general categories, and I'm going to be missing a lot, but we've got sticks, wands, and styluses here. They can be used in the mouth, on the head, or attached to the body in some way. These are really great because they're low tech. You don't need batteries, you don't need to plug them in, and they're mobile, so you can use them in a lot of different situations. We've got mouth controls here. It kind of moves like a joystick, but with your mouth or lips, right? You can use a sip or a puff as a control, and you can program that to whatever you want for your setup. These are generally mounted to another surface, so they're not as flexible in terms of when and where you can use them. Like, you can't get on the city bus and use it, most likely, unless it's attached to like your mobility device, perhaps. But we've also got braille displays here that can include its own typing system or be used in conjunction with a non-braille keyboard. Like probably a lot of us use like a QWERTY keyboard in here. There's lots of different sizes available depending on what your needs are. You could get a small little travel one, or you can get like a big one and go on your desktop, you know. And we've got digital trackers. These can track eye movement, head movement, blinking, you know, or any combination of those. These are also usually mounted, but they can be handheld depending on the device and the user's needs. Foot controls. Kind of does what it says. You've got like buttons or pedals that you can use your feet, but you also get feet mice too. So you can see the woman with the blue pad underneath her foot here. She's got a mouse strapped to her foot. She moves around that big mouse pad underneath her sitting area. They can be wired or wireless. And then bonus, screen magnification and zoom, right? This can be like a physical, like a magnifying glass, you know, of different sizes or shapes. But it can also be run at the operating system level, but it could also be app specific. Like we use in the browser, we'll often do like magnification zoom in just the browser, right, in certain situations. But I want to point something out about screen magnification here. We might just like assume like, oh yeah, this is certainly for people with visual disability, right? Yes, and as a developer, I have met people who will magnify their coding screen, so much so that years ago, the sins of the past, I was like, Justin, do you need glasses? And he was like, no, because he had 6 or 7 lines of code up on this big monitor in front of him. And he's like, I can read the small stuff, but I get so distracted by the rest of the code in the file. I only need the context where I'm working here. And I went, whoa. Cool. So a lot of these things here, you know, apply to more than one type of disability. So you might be thinking to yourself, wait, just gosh darn minute there, Malk. Not all of those examples showed a disability. It's okay. Like I hear you, like I get it, right? But not all disabilities are visible, right? And not all disabilities are permanent. Disability is a really, really broad topic, right? It's broad and varied. And we can get an official definition, but I'd ask you to think about this. Disability occurs when someone is in an environment that doesn't support them, right? So if I went and visited a library that only had books in Braille, only Braille, as a sighted person, I would be disabled. I can't read those books. I would have to train this sensitivity of my fingertips to be able to do that, right? That's a skill, it's a language that I'd have to learn, right? Similarly, that's just a situation, right? Sorry, I'm getting like really bad dry mouth. Luckily, I was prepared. So going to the Braille library, that's a situation, right? I can leave that library whenever I want and go back to my sighted library. Awesome, right? A disability can be permanent, right? Like we might have thought out when we called out like loss of like motor control, like limb stuff like. It can also be temporary, like if anybody's broken a bone and had to have a cast, or maybe you've gone to the eye doctor and you've gotten those drops put in and you can't see anything, so he's got to drive you home, right? But it can also be situational, like I mentioned, like perhaps you're at the beach and it's so bright out and you can't see your screen on your phone and you're like, if only the contrast ratio was better, I could read my stuff, right? Lots of different ways to think about disability. And this is why we say that accessibility is for everyone, right? That's not just like a feel-good kumbaya phrase, it's a fact. It's for everyone. Like if I've lost your attention right now, which is okay if I have, you're still situationally disabled because you can't listen to audio right now. So if you're trying to watch like a movie or something, you probably are looking at the subtitles. And it would be very impolite to stand up and walk out, which means you kind of have a situational motor disability right now. But it's okay if you need to walk out. I will not judge you. I will still be your friend. So what does this mean for web development, right? Like, we're here because we work in the web, right? We're technology people. We're either developers or designers or something adjacent to that. So let's review some quick categories of different types of disability, right? Without getting into too much detail. And then we'll think about considerations for those so we can be kinder designers and developers of web interfaces. I will make these slides available afterwards. If you want, I'll provide ways to get in contact with me and I will give them to you. So I'm not going to read all of this, right? But there are 5 big categories we can think about here. Visual disability, motor, so motor is like your movement, usage of limbs. Speech, hearing, and cognitive, right? Sometimes also called intellectual disability, but that reminds me of intellectual property rights. I prefer to say cognitive disability. So with people with visual disability, some things that we can think about that don't have to do with screen readers is stop disabling pinch to zoom on our mobile web interfaces. It's really common, I find. Allow people to zoom in. People sometimes genuinely need to go 500% zoomed in. It's the first time you see somebody using that as an outsider, it felt shocking to me. I still remember that moment where I was like, you scroll forever sideways, and that's just the experience of that person, right? So make sure we allow that's okay to do. Make sure our color contrast, I think that's one that we're probably also familiar with. That's an easy one to check. Lots of web tools we can use for that. Focus and hover states. Make your focus and hover states really visible. I know a lot of designers are like, oh, but it'll be ugly, it won't look good, it's not aesthetic, right? I don't care. Can you imagine if you're like, oh man, cool, I need to get in my bank account, but all these links are so close to each other, I think this one's my activity. You click on it and it loads and you scroll over to where you can see because you're zoomed all the way in, but you still you have cataracts and it's difficult to see and it turns out you're not on activity. You're not on activity at all. You're at the screen to add another card. That's not where we want to be, right? So hover and focus states makes it super visible so people can be like, oh no, I'm in the wrong spot before I even have to click. And then our content and controls, what I mean by content and controls is content is like the text on our screen. It's like the information. It's like our bank statement, right? And our controls are things like our navigation or our sort or filter options, right? Make them visually distinct and different. As humans, we're pattern finding machines, right? We're always looking for something, so we'll quickly glaze over things, right? If you give it the old squint test and your controls don't look different from your content, it might not be the kindest interface you could have made for somebody. Motor control, support keyboard-only users. If you only have to use tab and arrow keys to get through, and they either get stuck on your page or they can't access entire portions of your page, you've now physically prevented a whole group of people who can't use this cool thing that you built, right? If you use session timeouts, warn people. Say, hey, your session's at the timeout. Do you want to extend it? You see this one a lot in banks, but we can also implement that in our own systems that involve logins. Again, focus and hover states also applies here too. If you're having difficulty moving your mouse around, you definitely want to be able to see where you're targeting. And provide very large click targets, right? We don't need to go sewing when we're trying to use our web interfaces or trying to click on a link in the middle of an article, right? Make it big. And same thing with our form elements. The text for a checkbox or a radio button, I would die happy if everybody went and fixed all of their text. So when I click on the text for a radio or checkbox, it checks the radio or the checkbox. Perfect. Speech, don't depend on voice input. I don't know how many of you here have played The Lethal Company, but I'm looking at that game real hard. It requires voice chat in order to be able to play with other players. And then allow extra time for speaking. Some people have different rates of speech. And also be patient, right? Don't rush people if they're trying to get something out. Don't try to finish their sentences for them. And then occasionally, if you work with somebody who has speech disability, ask yourself every now and again, do I accidentally, unintentionally not ask this person for feedback without realizing it, right? It's the same thing when we consider any other internalized ism too, right? Internalized ableism is a thing, and this is one of the things that I know I've been accidentally guilty of too. And I think it's important to call out because we think it's kind to finish somebody's sentence oh, I know that word for you. That's not, then people who have a stutter or some sort of speech disability, it's not because they don't know what to say, right? Oftentimes they will know what to say, but it just got to go through the gears. So just wait, give them some time. Hearing disability, if anything is pre-recorded, like these videos and talks will be pre-recorded and put somewhere, make sure that there are captions. We're in the world of AI right now. Like, there's no reason that we shouldn't have captions. And then when they're auto-generated, have an actual human review them, right? Fix the spelling, fix the proper nouns, add in the grammar where it should be so it makes sense, right? And then, once you've done that, provide a transcript of that, right? Along with your rich media. Not everybody's gonna be able to load that video, right? Somebody mentioned a broken phone screen. What about low data? That's also a situational disability. Maybe I can't load that video, right? Or maybe I don't have the attention span to watch the whole thing and I just wanna be able to skim through it, right? Accessibility is for everyone, right? And also, consider a sign language interpreter. It's pretty cool. Cognitive disabilities, simple interfaces. This is really general, right? But things you can think about with simple interfaces is not just the interfaces, the buttons, you know, am I making it too needlessly complex to click through things, but also, is my content simple? Are my words simple? Am I too jargony? Am I saying more than I need to? Like, there's a whole concept called plain language that you could think about if you're curious about that topic specifically. And with your videos and audio, make them as short as possible. They don't need to be needlessly long, right? Make it simple and direct and easy for people to understand. For help features, same thing. Make it simple, direct, and contextual to the area that they're in. It's really easy to think about help in a form, right? Hey, which ID do you want here? You click on the little help icon and it says, this is not your tax ID. You want your user ID. And you're like, oh, thank you, because I would have put in the wrong one. Reduce or eliminate distractions, right? These are things like pop-ups, ads, carousels that auto-move, intrusive audio or video that starts playing, and oftentimes with distractions. We love to think about ADHD, right? Very popular. Yes, but with many things in this talk, it's yes and. Reducing distractions are also helpful for people with seizure disorders, perceptual disabilities, memory disorders like short-term memory or long-term memory, motor disability, and the list goes on. People who maybe are sensitive to motion sickness, right? Personally, I think this also includes the use of modals, but that is also a separate sub-soapbox topic. And lastly, test with your actual users, your actual users. Oh, I gotta find my mouse because I've got notes. There's a study called the Nielsen, it's the NN group. I honestly don't know what the second N means, but it's Nielsen, NIE, it's cool. Nielsen Norman, awesome. They're very good at making user experience recommendations, generalized recommendations. And one of the articles that I came across from them stated that only 5% of web users, and this has nothing to do with accessibility, right? This is general population. 5% of web users, no matter which country you're in, it ranges, some countries are 4, some countries are 6, right? But only 5% can complete complex tasks on the web. If we're in this room right now, we're in that 5%. So we should ask ourselves, are we unintentionally creating Braille libraries for our users by making an assumption that they know how to operate and use web interfaces the same way that we do? We might be. So that's a lot, right? That's a lot of stuff to think about. So don't we have tools for this, right? We surely we have tools for this, right? So let me put it to you this way. The Web AIM Million is a study that looks at the top 1 million websites on the web. And it looks at their home pages, and it simply checks for accessibility errors. And these numbers are from their most recent report in 2023. 96% of websites, homepage websites, had at least one violation. But I'll clue you in, it's certainly more than one, right? They're generally hundreds per home page, right? And of those errors that are detected, 96% of them are what we would consider easily detectable. Things like broken links, empty buttons, missing alt text, right? So why? Why though? These websites, they include our banks, our government websites, our social media networks, the places that we shop online, right? These are companies with money, right? And if there's a legal requirement to make your website accessible, Like in America, it's called Section 508 through the ADA. In Europe, they've got a different thing there that I'm having a brain fart on. But wouldn't it be cheaper to just simply comply instead of opening yourself up to a lawsuit? Might it be that they don't care? They're like, I don't care, I have so much money. I don't care about the experiences of other people because I'm already paid. Or might it be that these tools don't work very well? The best-in-class automated software that you can get, depending on who you ask, is roughly a 50% success rate for automated detection. That's not good. Like, that's very much not good. It sucks, right? So this is why we should know about these things, so that we can do better, right? Something that can help you with this is there's a set of guidelines. This is the WCAG, or the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, are published by the W3C. They provide, defined success criteria and different conformance levels. And internationally, they are considered the most authoritative source of web accessibility guidelines, and they are intended to be technology agnostic. So they can be used for current technology and hopefully future technology. This is the place to go if you want to know for sure. Like, how should I think about this? What should I do instead? Because they'll also include recommendations. They have 13 large guidelines, and they put them into 4 categories that we affectionately call POUR. So P-O-U-R, that's perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So when we think, yay, it passes a screen reader test, it's accessible, we're really only thinking about robust. The last one, right? Robust means that our content needs to be able to be interpreted by assistive devices and technology. So yeah, we should learn this stuff, right? Because we should be curious about other people's experiences. And we should care, we should want to have to build a better world. And so that we talk about, let's make better social networks to connect people. This is also part of connecting just as humans, right? Empathy is important. It's what makes us human, I think. And you're not always going to get this perfect, right? Like, you're really, really not going to get this perfect, and that's okay. Because like this talk that I'm giving right now, this very moment, it's not actually accessible. It's not very accessible, right? And like, why might that be? And I'm like, well, off the top of my head, I could think of just these. And then while I've been standing here, I was like, oh, also, I thought there was going to be a bar at the bottom of the screen here that was going to show my progress. I could have also shown progress, right? But it's really easy to overthink this stuff. Like, it really is, especially when you start wanting to care about everyone, when you want to give the entire world a coat, right? But I think of it as a balancing act. Like, truly, I do think it has to be a balancing act, and it's unfortunate that you can't get 100% for everyone, but you can do your best, right? You can try to get as many people as possible. Like, my visually bold and chaotic slides are great for some disabilities and really not great for others. But I chose this because it's good for me, and I thought maybe it would be good for all of you too. Like, we've been sitting here for a while, right? I knew I was not the first talk. So if you take away only 2 things from this talk, let it be these. Test with and talk to your actual users. Learn about them. I had an idea of who you all were, and I've talked to some of you in this room already, right? And 2, make your dang focus and hover states visible, okay? So thank you. If you want the slides, here's how to get in touch. It's Malik Yunus on LinkedIn, or you can email me, malik@magnoliadevelopment.io, and I'd love to get in touch and share with you. Thank you.